So good. Palin, Trump, an alliance be forming. Here to answer that question and much more, Fox News contributor, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, out there in the warm weather, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, and happy Easter week, Sean.
And happy Easter week to you. Well, first of all, I think his characterization was 100% right. When he said he respects you a lot, you have tremendous energy, a great following, and that you've been unfairly treated. You guys are you've been going back and forth. You had some kind words to say about him and the legitimacy of this question that he's raising. What do you think about the issue in general?
Well, first, I do have respect for Donald Trump and for his candidness. I think people are craving that today in the world of political speak that we're coming out of the White House and the confusing messages that come from so many of our politicos. We appreciate that Donald Trump is so candid. Donald Trump is the one being really treated unfairly, I'd say, though, in the press when they're hammering him about the one issue that he has brought up and not been shy about, and that's the birth certificate. He's merely answering reporters' questions about his view on the birth certificate, and then reporters turn that around and saying that's all he's got. He's only running on a birth certificate issue when that's not the case. Donald Trump is running on the issue, bottom line, that President Obama is so far over his head. He has gotten us on the road to bankruptcy and insolvency and a less secure nation, and Trump and so many of us want to do something about that.
Yeah, I watched the interview, and it was interesting to me because Donald Trump kept saying, I don't want to talk about this. I'm dealing with China. I'm dealing with trade imbalances, oil dependency issues, and all of this. And you keep asking me about it. And it was interesting to watch Stephanopoulos interrupt him no fewer than 7 times. And in all the time that Barack Obama ran for president, he was asked one question about Bill Ayers, gave speeches with him, sat on boards with him, started his campaign in his house. You've experienced this double standard. You think it's going to continue through 2012?
Well, it certainly will continue if candidates allow it to continue. Candidates need to remember that they have control over the message, especially, thank God, in this day and age of the social media and fair and balanced reporters who are out there wanting to just inform the public. You can talk to them, and you don't have to give the time of day to those who are so obviously biased. Yeah, I was thinking back, too, on some of those interviews that Obama had given back when he was a candidate and the inconsistencies that he spewed back then, and reporters didn't follow up. Remember, he told Charlie Gibson back in 2008 that he would increase capital gains taxes even if it didn't result in more revenue coming into the feds, just in order to be more fair to taxpayers. An issue like that is so relevant today as we see Obama now starting to flirt with this idea of increasing taxes on everybody should have been followed up back then as a candidate. Certainly now, he, as our president, he needs to be asked these tough questions.
I watched your speech over the weekend, and then I reread the transcript, and I thought this was one of the most hard-hitting speeches you gave, more than anything else, against the Republicans. And you went through their promise when they were running in 2010 was, hey, elect us, $100 billion we're going to cut. That got prorated to 61. The deal came out to 38. They said 38.5. Then it was 28.5. And then you rightly pointed out, in the end, we're told, according to those that actually, fact-checked it, it was only 345 billion, not even a trillion. I'm sorry, 352 million, not a billion.
352, right.
Yeah. So the question is, and then you went on to say that that's not courage, that's capitulation, and you said we didn't elect you just to rearrange the deck chairs on a sinking Titanic. Pretty strong words for fellow Republicans.
Right, and I say it with all due respect to those Republicans who they got elected with that promise that they would rein in government growth and the overreach and the overborrowing and overspending that President Obama has so embraced. We can't afford to have any of the GOP in there or the old blue dog Democrats, the Reagan Democrats, be a part of Obama's very radical agenda, which, as I say, is putting us on the road to bankruptcy. We are flat broke. It makes absolutely no sense to capitulate and say, okay, we'll throw in cowboy poetry and pretty monuments and more museums and maybe some road projects that we don't need. Certainly some services provided by the feds that maybe states could be providing instead of the feds. So many things that are thrown into this budget, and yet we feel that we need to, strike a deal with the losing party. The party just lost in 2010. And the problem right now, Sean, seems to be that the GOP leadership seems to be a little bit hesitant to understand that there was a mandate in the 2010 election, and that was we were going to send a new freshman class into Congress to start cleaning things up, shrinking government, and allowing the private sector to thrive.
See, I agree with you. I think this was a bad deal, and I think this was a broken promise, and I think there was too great a fear that they would be blamed for a government shutdown. You even took it a step further. You said, we didn't elect you for this. We elected you to fight. And you know what? Maybe you need to learn how to fight like the girls' hockey team in Wisconsin that won the championship. So it was pretty harsh words for you. What should they have done? What should they have done, in your estimation, that would have been the right thing that you would have supported?
Well, first they need to acknowledge that really even a $100 billion cut down to $61 billion, down to $38 billion, down to really less than $1 billion, that's not even a cut. We need to remember that this year's budget is more than last year's budget. We are still at record smashing levels of spending other people's money in the federal government. So nothing is being cut. We're taking back a little bit of what Obama is requesting in terms of government growth, but it still isn't a cut. So the GOP needs to first acknowledge that and then be so committed to telling Obama, no, the 2010 election was a mandate. Tea Party Americans are the ones who led that mandate, where, no, things were not going to be done the same way as they had been done in the past. And now we enter a new ring, Sean. And in that new ring comes the fight for the debt ceiling. And there needs to be an understanding in the GOP leadership that we cannot provide another tool for the liberals to just incur more debt. And that's what raising the debt ceiling is going to allow again.
All right, I'm hearing rumors that they're telling their private caucus that they're lowering expectations and inferring they're not going to fight. When we come back, Governor, I want to ask you what happens if they don't fight. What will be the reaction of the people that voted him into office? We'll have much more with Governor. As we continue on Hannity, and we continue tonight with former Alaska Governor, Fox News contributor Sarah Palin. All right, so I want to go back to these comments that the Republicans didn't show courage, but they showed capitulation, that they need to fight. Governor, I know for a fact, there are sources I have, that there's a real divide within the caucus, and most Republicans seem to be coming down on the side that they can't be too contentious, can't battle too hard, and there's a lot of anger towards conservatives like myself, like you, like Rush, like Levin, Talk Radio, that we're saying, why didn't you guys fight here? Here's my next question. Next battle is going to be over the debt ceiling. And all indications I'm hearing is the leadership may not be ready to fight on this, and that even Tim Geithner said, no, they've gotten the okay that there's not going to be a big battle over this. What do you think the fallout and reaction will be if, in fact, they don't fight on that issue?
Well, if they don't fight on that issue, and if they don't fight going into the 2012 elections, we need to remember that losing is not an option, or our country will be owned by foreign countries, and we will be obviously less secure. We cannot afford to lose. We cannot afford to incur more debt. Debt is the foundation of destruction. Look what's happened over the years in Germany and Poland and Greece and so many of these other countries. We just need to look at what has happened to these other countries, learn their lessons, and not repeat it. Increasing debt in America will just put us on that road that those other countries were already on. No, we need to fight. We need to fight so hard going into 2012 to get somebody elected who has executive experience, who hasn't just been part of this herd mentality of trying to manage the public. The public doesn't need to be managed and controlled. We need freedom. The private sector needs freedom. So we can't start giving in on things like these budget deals and increasing the debt ceiling, and certainly not in these elections coming up.
You said to the GOP establishment, you sent a message, if you stand on your platform, if you stand on your pledge, we're going to stand with you. You said, we'll fight with you, we'll have your back, and together we all win because America wins.
Yeah.
You're talking about a very specific person. You've been kind of quiet on the issue of whether or not you're still thinking about contemplating a run for the presidency yourself. Where are you in your process?
Well, I think that it is still too early to declare candidacy. I think it's too early for anyone. Right now, my concentration is on getting that message out to the GOP leadership and to the other side, those who are reasonable and will listen, that we cannot keep going down the path that we're on. I am so encouraged, though, by, like, the Tea Party Americans. Let's go back to Trump. Look where he was last weekend. He was speaking at a Tea Party. That shows you that Tea Party Americans are influential, that they are big tent, and that they are independent. They want to hear from Trump. They want to hear from all who have common sense, pro-private sector, pro-business ideas, and the Tea Party movement is going to grow and strengthen.
Right,
and here,
But not to
go
belabor
ahead.
the point, Governor, a lot of the other candidates have now formed exploratory committees in anticipation of a run. Exploratory committee soon?
You know, that isn't even on the radar, that type of step yet, because I do think that even that is early. And, you know, I've never really run for anything conventionally over the last couple of decades, be it city council or conference of mayor presidency or mayor or city manager, governor, anything like that. I've just jumped in there and done it when I've known that it's the right thing to do. So it's going to be an unconventional run if I so chose to do that.
You also, in fairness, you had very harsh, very strong words for President Obama on a whole variety of issues, and not the least of which is that he didn't fulfill most of the promises that he has made. He even said at one point, win the future, when you said WTF is about right, which was a pretty funny line. But then you went through how he's ignored the debt, ignored the deficit spending, rammed through Obamacare, et cetera, et cetera. In that sense, who do you think, when you look at these candidates, who jumps out at you as somebody, if you don't get in, that you could wholeheartedly support and that you think could win this future that you're talking about?
No one yet. I want to keep hearing their ideas. I want to know of their experience, their executive experience. I want to know of their record in office and in the private sector, to know that they have a foundation that can be built upon in that presidency. But no, I did call President Obama out for his lies. Sean, he told us that he would cut the deficit in half, and yet he tripled it. He told us that he would be fiscally responsible, and yet he crammed down a nearly $1 trillion useless stimulus package that didn't stimulate anything except more debt, and as I said over the weekend, wonderful Tea Party movement. No,
yeah.
he has lied to the American public, and we're saying enough is enough, and that's why we want to fight. That's why we want to encourage those with that common sense, that love for country, that conscientious and very, very real and genuine concern for where we are headed, for what we are doing to our children and our grandchildren's opportunities. We want to be unified, and we want to go forth in a fight, if we must, against the liberal left who just doesn't get it, or if they get it, they're doing this on purpose, trying to destroy too many good things about our country.
I agree. I think the time to fight is now. I hope people, Republicans, conservatives, Tea Party members, I know the Tea Party's there, are on your side. By the way, Governor, I got to give you credit here. You have the most interesting backgrounds. One time we had a plane taken off in your backyard. You got somebody playing behind you over there, and I will tell you, I think you have the best backgrounds of any guest we have. We appreciate you being with us.
Hey, thank you so much. And it's about 60 degrees warmer than it is in Wasilla, where I am today, so this is heaven.
All right, Governor Palin, thanks for being with us.